All right. We'll now move on to public input. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board?
I've had a
Mr.
fairly...
Stevens, may I ask you a question first?
Sure.
With all due respect, are you addressing the ignorant selectmen, the goons, or the imbeciles tonight? Or the board of selectmen? I'm just curious.
I didn't know we had any of those.
Well, you've addressed them that way in the paper, and I was just curious as to who you're talking
Well,
about
you
tonight.
gotta watch out what you see in the paper, because that's not what I wrote.
Said Jack Stevens from the bottom. Thank you.
Go right ahead, Mr. Stevenson.
They print some funny things that you don't write.
Okay. Mr. Stevenson, what can I...
I gotta laugh at that too now. Anyway, I've had a very interesting, friendly conversation with Sheldon about an ongoing problem with the goodies exchange at the recycle center. This was originally started many, many years ago when we started recycling as a way to prevent useful items from being thrown away and adding to the waste stream and allow people to rescue them and use them. And it worked very fine for years. And sometime in the past, I don't know the exact time, a problem occurred out there that some lady was apparently accumulating an excessive amount of things, which it was suspected she was selling it or something. I've never seen any proof of it. And because of this, they limited the amount of things that anybody can take out of the goodies exchange at one time, which shouldn't be a problem for most people. But also limited to one day instead of 6 days a week, which is a serious problem for most people. There's many, many people that could make very good use both in donating to it and finding things there. They can't make Saturday to get there. So I think that we should go back to a full 6-day schedule as before and direct whoever is managing or watching it to watch out for conflicts and problems like this, and if it occurs, find out exactly what it is at that time.
Hold on, Jack. I think you bring up a valid point. Sheldon?
Yes, sir.
The question that I might have on behalf of Jack's comment was, if somebody wants to make a donation, would we limit them to only making a donation on a Saturday? So the donations are acceptable 6 days a week.
Correct.
Okay, so that's part of the problem solved. Any resident can make a donation.
That's good.
Excellent. They can make a donation 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Now.
Now picking things up, I can add another part.
Yep. Now, Jack, if, for instance, there was a fire, or maybe I should address this, Sheldon. If there was a fire, Sheldon, let's just say, and some residents needed something that was at the goodie store or exchange, whatever you want to call it, the town would obviously provide for that person 7 days a week.
Correct.
Is that correct?
As we've done in the past, yeah. If I can make one comment,
Please.
I understand where Jack is coming from, and I have no qualms with that. We run 1.5 bodies over there for the week. What we try to do is have 2 people on staff when that is open. People will, as they do anywhere, I suppose, rummage around and leave it maybe a little less than it was when they came in. I tried. The idea of the Saturday is you have 2 people working. So one person could be handling the other parts and another person handling the goodies exchange, as we call it. People can bring stuff in anytime. And if we know somebody in need and they have a request, all they have to do is stop and see the attendant. And as long as he's available, we allow him to go in. It's more a concern for safety and well-being of people as they go in and rummage around. Some of the items are rather large and need assistance moving them if they decide to take them in.
So again, this is a situation that it's not that the town of Guilford is trying to prevent residents from receiving any of these donated items. Just a matter of one is the labor, because the taxpayers are paying for it. And second of all, it's safety. But more importantly, we would provide for any person that needed it and just requested it.
You look at the amount of stuff accumulating over there now. And you really gotta come over and take out and
Hold on one second, yes, please.
everybody.
And Jack, I just want to make mention, I spoke with Richie, I think Sheldon can confirm this, that the person you referenced before has had a discussion with her, and that it's not a problem in the least at this point.
Excellent.
So we've taken care of all your points.
Thank you, Jack. Is there anybody else that would like to come before the board? Please, Mrs. Yuki.
I just have one more question for the board on the fire truck. What happens if the motion or the warrant article fails? So you don't buy the engine?
Right, well, yeah,
Okay, I just,
thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to the board? Please, Mr. Murphy.
We do that together.
Let me add what I said earlier, but add on to what Barbara said. If this fails this time around, are you going to bring it up again? Would we see a third round of special meetings to be able to push this along? And if you could go back to my earlier question in context of the voters already having voted this down, why are we doing it again? And as the other gentleman said earlier, who is no longer here, we already had a vote a couple of months ago and it was overwhelmingly defeated.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for asking that question at this part of it and not the financing. Chairman Higley, if you'd like to respond to that. And of course, Chief.
Sure. Bill Akerley, Board of Fire Engineers. Don't want to go over through everything again, but to answer your question, Skip, the reason that we're going to have this special meeting and that the meeting's been requested is things have changed. I do agree with you that the voters overwhelmingly did not support the replacement of Engine 4. We, at the fire department, sent the truck out, and we had said all along that we would abide by the people's vote. We sent the truck to have the pump work done on it. Our budget was $9,000 to $11,000, knowing that the worst case scenario is if the pump needed to be replaced. We won't go through all this because we're going to do it again tomorrow night. The reason we're looking at the special meeting is not because we're trying to slide this by because it was not approved. That's not it. And I know you were present at some of the meetings in the last month or so, that things have changed, that the truck is not viable. We were going to have the truck fixed, obviously. As Sean Mulcahy, and he'll be there again tomorrow night, to explain the deficiencies that are in this truck. That's why we're having a special meeting. We did bring the truck up, and I know there are people that will not agree or will not believe what I'm telling you, that we sent the truck to be repaired. We did send the truck, in fact, to be repaired, and found out that the deficiencies in the truck are going to cost $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 of a 25-year-old truck. We, as stewards of the fire department, one, don't have the money to do that. We had to go to the selectmen to see what do we do, and that was our quandary, and we came to the selectmen and the town administrator, and they said this is the way that it needs to be approached at this point. That's where we are. So we're not we're not doing an end run, which was somebody else's word earlier, Jay Ellenson, about an end run of what the voters spoke overwhelmingly. But things have changed in the evaluation of the truck. And not to be crass, but it is not a huge surprise to the fire department. It's everything that our experts have been saying since last fall. I know the waters get quite muddied through the budget process, but what has happened, and I'm not here to say I told you so, but what has happened is when the truck was up in the lift 4 weeks ago, when we went up and we were brought up to speed on other deficiencies other than the $34,000 to put into the 25-year-old truck, to have the pump, and you know the whole list of other issues that the truck has. We have discussed them numerous times. That's why there's a special meeting, if that addresses your question.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Okay, Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to Selectmen's issues. Selectman O'Brien.
I just have two comments. One was, and you just mentioned it too, Bill, this end-around concept. I'm sorry that the gentleman left, but I just wanted to explain, and I think we all agree that that was, in the paper it sounded like we were trying to pull something off, and what we were trying to do was be expedient. And that was the only reason for not going before the judge. The other thing is, at our last meeting, some information came out in the media that it appeared that we were very short in our deliberation or discussion about Wellesley Woods. And I just want to make everybody aware of the fact that we had been looking at that for, what, 3 months? So
Back to November.
yeah, so it's been a while, and I just want to make sure everybody understood that it wasn't a 5-minute discussion. We've been on it, we've looked at all the information, not only the onset, but also the information that came back in reply to our request. So it wasn't a short-sighted discussion. Thank you.
I think that's some valid points, Selectman O'Brien, especially when our town attorney, specifically addressing the Wesley Woods, we have volumes of information that were provided to the town that, again, as selectmen, some people think that we only work for 3 hours every 2 weeks. I mean, this is something, and again, I'm not, believe me, please, we're working 7 days a week. We get phone calls, I get phone calls at my job, I get phone calls at work, and like I'm sure we all do. And we're doing the readings, we're going to meetings, we have questions of our attorney or of Scott or finance director, whatever. When we come to that meeting, all the information is a public document. We're not just coming to a meeting and making a decision there. Anybody that's been involved with these committees knows that, or even in the private sector, when you come to a meeting, the meetings run a lot smoother if you've done your homework, if you've read, if you've prepared, if you've asked those questions of the pertinent people. It does help to move along the meeting, but I think it's a good point.
It's a good culmination.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
No.
Mr. Chairman, there's one item that we did not bring up earlier. We received a letter of resignation from Dennis Corrigan as an alternate member of the planning board. I move we accept that resignation with our deepest appreciation and regrets.
Having I'm sorry, that was the first? I'll
Yes.
second it. Having a first and a second, is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I with reluctance.
Motion carries.
Other than that, I'm good, thank you.
All right, and we will go on to administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quite a few things for you this evening. An update on Harris Shore Road. As you know, the town meeting approved authorizing the selectmen to convey a portion of the road to the McGrath family. With several conditions that were imposed by the board. Those conditions are all proceeding along. The pins have been put in place, and so I'm expecting that matter to be closed out within the next couple of weeks. It was a bit expensive for the McGrath family, more so than they anticipated, in terms of the surveyor's fees and things like that, but those are costs that they need to bear rather than the taxpayers. That's coming along. I still have not received any response from the Commissioner of Department of Transportation on the board's petition for the discontinuance of a section of state highway. One suggestion I have for you is whether or not the board would be inclined for me to involve Councilor Burton, or should we just hold off and wait?
Wait.
Okay. Just a reminder, Sheldon and I are working diligently on a 10-year road improvement plan. We had hoped to have that in front of you tonight, but we want to do it right and do as good a job as possible. And Sheldon was supposed to be on vacation last week, even though he was in most days. But we are still working diligently to complete that. Pursuant to the board's request, I have met with the Conservation Commission on the Lincoln Park tree removal issue. And out of that meeting came a request from the Conservation Commission to develop a plan on paper that they would like to see. So I have asked for some professional assistance from a landscape architect from a local firm. And I'll be meeting out there with a member of the Conservation Commission next week. I'll also be meeting with the Recreation Commission next week to talk about Lincoln Park. And also, as you know, we did receive a request to have a large oak tree removed from the park. and it was Sheldon and my recommendation that that tree not be removed, and so they may ultimately appeal that decision to you folks. But we will be incurring some expense. We do have a fund for Lincoln Park, and so we'll evaluate the cost of those proposals and hopefully fund that through the Lincoln Park Fund and not tax dollars. It's come to my attention very recently, just this week, that the town beach bathhouse is not up to code in that because they cook there, there is no grease trap as an interceptor for the sewer system. It is connected to sewer. So we do need to put in a grease trap, and also they found that there's a broken pipe. We did not budget for that, but we did solicit a couple of proposals. The lowest bid is from our town contractor who we do for plumbing, which is Alton Bay Mechanical, for a total price of $1,012 to do both the grease trap and fix the pipes. And so there's a request to pay for that from the Recreation Facilities Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund. And so I look for the board's authorization to do that.
So moved. With a question,
Second?
how will we cover getting the grease trap pumped out when the time comes? There'll be a fee for that.
I think we can handle that through our regular maintenance budget on the building.
Thank you.
Having a first and a second, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next up, the Police Association is looking to do a raffle of a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. As you probably are aware, the Police Association uses all of its proceeds for charitable purposes to fund organizations in the town of Guilford, and they are looking for a permission to have this motorcycle on display on town property, which may even include the lobby of the town hall.
That's fine.
Okay.
I will comment onto that. I was amazed because I said it on a meeting. I didn't realize how much time the officers and staff give to the charitable side of their work. I was completely blown away when I found this out. There's a lot that's involved that nobody sees.
Thousands of dollars
Thousands of dollars a year.
donating. They're like one of the primary sponsors of the Santa Fund. I think that's one of the biggest things.
Fishing derby as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good work there. And everybody who sees this Harley will be encouraged to buy a raffle ticket.
It's not the police one that we just leased.
No, that's the one, that is leased by the town, so that is a town motorcycle. This would be a,
That might be a
That was
problem.
Selectman O'Brien.
I'm just checking.
just let you know, I have been asked and I have accepted an invitation to join the advisory committee for the airport master plan. And we met today for our first meeting. John Ayer is also on that advisory committee, and a number of citizens from both Guilford and Laconia, and that's going to take some work. Another last minute or sort of an emergency request with regards to the row house. We have just found out recently that the chimney is in danger of collapsing upon itself because the mortar is old and hasn't been well cared for. And so we have received Mr. Morgan did solicit 4 proposals. The low bid is $1,200. It's not something that we had budgeted for. There is $500 in the general maintenance budget for the row house. My suggestion would be that we spend this $1,200, that the board approve this $1,200 expenditure from the town building maintenance capital reserve fund.
Can you tell me what contractor is?
Godbout Masonry.
So moved.
Sorry?
Having a first and a second, is there any other questions or comments? The only question, Scott, is where it's a National Historic Site, I guess. Is there any regulations that we'd have to do or contact anybody?
No, it's a simple masonry repair job, and it will look like it was done 100 years ago. But
I have
for
no
fact
doubt
it's
the
in
Historic District Heritage Commission will
We're gonna have
be all
special
over
meetings.
And I know that Mr. Morgan will be working closely with the Thompson Ames folks, and does work closely with those folks on all matters concerning that building.
All right, having a first and a second, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
To move, keep it going here, I have been working with the general manager of Gunstock on a pilot agreement for the taxation of manufactured homes that are on the facility. year after year. Basically, the law says that the town is entitled to tax anything that's there for more than 10 weeks that's not registered as a motor vehicle. And in lieu of us having to pay our assessing engineer to go out there and inspect these vehicles twice a year, we've worked out a pilot arrangement where a flat fee of $250. I'm expecting the Gunstock Commission to vote on a proposal along those lines tonight, and that will come to you folks at your next meeting to also consider that pilot agreement as well.
Scott, can you define pilot for anything?
A pilot is a acronym for payment in lieu of taxes. I received word today from our attorney who's handling the redistricting lawsuit, and he had quite a lot of information. This matter has been kicked up to the Supreme Court immediately, so it's been taken out of Superior Court. The town of Guilford itself has been ruled to not have standing in this lawsuit. However, there are two individuals from the town who have filed as part of the litigants, those being our lawyer, and Mr. Saferson, and the court has recognized that those two individuals do have standing, so we will have a hearing before the Supreme Court. That hearing is scheduled for June 6th, oral arguments at the Supreme Court, and I am anticipating going there to see how that goes.
Scott, can you explain why we don't have standing but the two residents do?
The case made by the Speaker of the House, who frankly probably doesn't have standing, but was allowed to make a case that the town didn't have standing. Actually, the case was that none of the cities had standing, those being Manchester, Concord, and Dover. And I'm not sure if the court has ruled on that yet. But because the constitutional voting rights apply to citizens who vote and the town does not vote, the court held the town's not a voter, so the town's rights haven't been denied. But our case will be heard on behalf of the two citizens from Guilford. The other thing the court decided was there was a petition filed for a temporary injunction to prohibit people from registering for the primary. The court denied that temporary injunction. Last couple of issues. Our new cruiser arrived this week, and it has been received its decals. As you're probably aware, Ford has switched from the Crown Victorias that they're no longer making to it's a Taurus. It's called a Police Interceptor, but it's a Taurus frame. Very sharp-looking vehicle. It's been lettered, and we hope to have it radios installed and other electronics and light bars installed within the next week or two, and should be on the road for patrolling within 2 weeks.
Did the cage switch over or no?
The cages are not going to switch. Ford misspoke in terms of the ease of transition from Crown Victorias to the new Interceptors. But that is online, and that wraps up my reports for tonight.
All right, our next meeting is Wednesday, actually our next regular meeting is Wednesday, June 13, 2012. But we also have another meeting next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Here, correct, yeah.
Given that, Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
First.
Crop TV.